Welcome back to From the Shed End, another video. This one's more about transfers today, but before we get into the video, as always, I've even added the little button down there so you can't miss it now. Subscribe to this channel, please. Like the channel, like the video, comment, let me know your thoughts as well. We're on 272 subscribers. By Sunday, before kickoff 4:30, I want 300 subscribers. So please, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, we've got our social accounts down there, but more importantly, it's in red. You can't miss it. Subscribe to the channel. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. But we're talking transfers today because as much as we're talking about incoming players, we've also got some that are leaving the club, and no better place to start than Timo Werner, who has decided he wants a new opportunity to showcase what he can do. He's moving back to RB Leipzig. He confirmed that yesterday with a letter that he gave to Chelsea fans as well. As it reads here, today marks the end of my journey with Chelsea FC. I'm incredibly grateful for the time I spent at this special club. At this point, I would like to express my appreciation for my teammates, the coaches and staff, and especially for you, the special supporters of Chelsea Football Club. I felt so much love and support throughout the last 2 years, and I will never forget how you guys stood behind me in good and in challenging times. We lifted trophies like the Champions League together, and I will always remember the song you wrote and chanted for me. I'm already looking forward to hopefully playing at Stamford Bridge one day. Now, it's a bittersweet because I think, you know, if we're talking about Timo Werner and the fact that Timo Werner is definitely someone that, you know, when he came to the club for the price that he did, you know, I think it was just under 50 million or under 45 million. You know, he was one of those players that you expected a lot more from. You wanted to see something from. We knew what his record was like at RB Leipzig and how he'd taken the Bundesliga by storm and was able to go out there and do what he could do. So when he came into the club, it was definitely one of those signings which we were definitely excited about. And, you know, Kai Havertz coming in, Pulisic coming in as well from the Bundesliga, and Hakim Ziyech as well in that sort of transfer bundle that we got at the time as well. So I think we were definitely happy with Werner. If I'm brutally honest, I feel like he struggled at times off the field and on the field at Chelsea. I don't think he was necessarily, you know, at times he wasn't being played in the right positions, or it was just confidence, a lot of it as well. You know, I think it's a massive adjustment. We forget how young some of these players are that we're talking about. And, you know, I'm not saying that age is a reason why he hasn't played or fulfilled the level of expectations that he was supposed to do at Chelsea. But I just think, you know, he's coming to a new league, a new country, adjustment. You know, I think he came at a COVID period as well, which again, you know, similar to Kai Havertz, you know, it does take its toll on you. And again, another adjustment as well. And I think as well, the pressures are different. You know, you're talking about, and this is no disrespect to RB Leipzig or the Bundesliga, but the pressures in English football, from the media, from fans, from social media, it's completely different to any other football nation or league that I know, that I'm aware of. So I think to come into this with, you know, maybe an expectation that, you know, he was going to be given a bit more time, and, you know, there was more leniency from probably some of the Chelsea fans as well. He never really got that. And I think, you know, he was one of those that, yes, he missed a couple of sitters. You know, I think back to Fernando Torres, who for me arguably is still one of the best players in the Premier League that we've seen in that role, as a striker, especially more so for Liverpool. But even at Chelsea, you know, there was times where he scored crucial goals, and I feel like Timo Werner done that as well. You know, you think back to some of those Champions League goals that he scored, and some Premier League goals as well that he scored as well. I think he's still, under Thomas Tuchel, got the most goals and assists in the Champions League under Thomas Tuchel. So, you know, he's definitely one of these players that I think we're going to miss. You know, in the long run, is it a bad sale? I mean, I think we sold him for just under 25 million. It's a tough one. You know, I think we'll potentially regret letting him go, especially the fact that we kind of don't have anyone to backfill that role. Obviously, we've got Raheem Sterling, who's come in this season, but again, I'm talking about injuries, or I'm talking about something that sidelines Raheem Sterling for a period of time. Who are we playing there? Christian Pulisic. You know, we need quality and depth, and I think he was that person that, me personally, I would have retained at the squad until we brought someone else in that can play in that role, or can play in that front three, or maybe just, I don't know, maybe I'm just being one of these people that want to try and keep as many players but buy new players as well. So I think the move makes sense for Werner. I think he'll go back to the Bundesliga. He'll definitely score goals. He'll definitely create chances. He'll definitely have more time on the ball, and he'll score the numbers that he was scoring before he moved to Chelsea. I don't think there's any doubt in that at all. He's one. Another player that we have been heavily linked with over the last couple of weeks is Frankie Deyoung from Barcelona. Now, this deal looks like it's going to need to be happening very soon. Barcelona are still keen to sign players. They still want to get players in. And there's only one way they're going to do that. I mean, there's talking about Alonso, which we'll talk about shortly. I think they're trying to sign Bernardo Silva from Manchester City as well. And the latest news that we have that is coming out of the Barcelona camp and from Chelsea is that we're still trying to sign Frankie Deyoung. We're hoping to agree a fee for just under 71 million. I think that was the bid that was accepted by Manchester United, but there was no indication that the player will join. Now, there has been loads of conversations. I think, Todd Bowley has been trying to reassure De Jong that he's going to be part of the team. And I think as well, he's one of those players that we don't necessarily need. And I said this on the podcast. I said it in the previous video. I feel like this is more a convenience move for Barcelona. It gets Frankie De Jong off the wage bill. It kind of resolves that really messy situation that seems to be happening at the club with De Jong and Barca and his contract, and the fact that they're finding, legalities and technicalities in his current contracts and previous contracts under the previous president as well. So there's loads of crazy things going on with this deal. It doesn't sit right with me that we're going to spend that much on a midfielder when we already have midfielders in the squad that I'd rather utilize. I could even, Billy Gilmore, Conor Gallagher. Like I said on my previous video, Mason Mount could play that midfield. We have Kovacic, we have Jorginho, we have N'Golo Kante as well. Ampadu can go in that role. Trevor Chalobah can play in that role. Are they Frankie De Jong level, some of those players? Of course not. But at the same time as well, it's a lot of money to spend on a player that we're just almost, I feel like we're signing just for convenience because of the circumstances that he finds himself in, Barcelona find themselves in. And of course, Todd Bowley wants to bring in as many marquee signings as possible. And you would have to class De Jong as a marquee signing. He's a good player. I mean, I'm not discrediting what he does as a player. He's definitely the one that would improve the squad. But I just think for the fee, for the money, we've got players that can do that role already at the squad. And for me, I'd rather utilize that money and try and bring in someone else. Try and bring in another attacking player. Yes, we need a CDM, but as I said, we've got players, in my opinion, that can do that job there as well. I feel like Todd Bowley for this deal here, and maybe for the Cucurella as well. He's noticed that obviously Manchester United are keen on trying to sign Frankie De Jong, and the same with Cucurella with Man City. He's noticing that other clubs that he potentially sees as big clubs, Man City and Man United, are going for these players, so he has to do the same. I just think this is a deal that we might look back on and say, well, we've signed him this season, but we're still going to need to sign a CDM next season. I arguably, some people are calling for Declan Rice, which is a very good move, I think, in some circumstances. But I just feel that this deal might come back to haunt us if we do go through with that. Now, obviously, Frankie De Jong wants to play, and Champions League football. There's a World Cup coming up. He wants to play as many games as possible. I just think he needs to get away from Barcelona. Whether he comes to Chelsea and that's the position that he wants to take up, then that's cool. But we just need to remember that, we've got players in that squad that, in my opinion, deserve a chance. They've proven that they've gone on loan. They've come back to the club. They're playing well in pre-season, and they're being the afterthought after Frankie De Jong. It just doesn't make any sense to me. So I get that he wants to play Champions League football. He wants to play in, top leagues, which is the Premier League. He wants to play for a good club that isn't a mess. You look at Manchester United at the moment, they're sort of still in a mess, and we're kind of at that point where we're coming out of our mess that we was in under the sanctions and everything that happened under Roman Abramovich, and now we're at that point where we are trying to sign key players, world-class players, elite players. So I think this is one of those deals that, yes, on paper, circumstances, it makes sense, but I just think there's players in that squad ahead of Frankie De Jong that we've got at the club already, that we've got on the books, that we should be trying to utilize in the squad as well. But we'll have to see. It's going to be one of those. I think we'll potentially, if we see anything, I think it's going to come down to the next couple of days or so with Frankie Deyoung. That deal needs to be sorted, especially if Barcelona want to try and sign the next guy that we're going to be talking about, which is Marcos Alonso, who is almost close to a deal, trying to get this deal done. I think he's been flying out to Spain over the weekend last week, trying to get this deal done. I think potentially may have already had a medical as well. But as Fabrizio Romano has already stated here, once Barcelona register all their signings with final green light coming from La Liga, Marcos Alonso will be sealed as the next incoming. There's an agreement in principle with Chelsea since last week. Matter of details, Marcos would sign with Barca until 2024 with a 1-year option extension to the contract. So it does look like Marcos Alonso is on the way out of the club. Of course, Cucurella's come in. You would expect Marcos Alonso, who has been tipped to move to Spain throughout the summer. He wants that deal, I think, in the region of 10 million, which is a fair going for the player. But it is all banking on Barcelona being able to register these players that they brought. And I mean, Barcelona's a mess. They're an absolute mess at the moment. You know, they're almost doing fraud before our eyes and being able to sign players. Like I said, you know, Bernardo Silva, I think they're talking about 60 or 70 million. They're spending money like it's monopoly money. So I think at the moment, this deal potentially will happen, but it all banks down to, you know, are they going to be able to get those players that they've got signed already registered to then free up, I think, another leveler, which they've, I think, on their 4th leveler, to be able to sign the likes of Bernardo Silva and Marcos Alonso at the club as well. I mean, it makes sense for Marcos Alonso to go. I think his game time will be limited. He'd probably be behind Ben Chilwell and Marc Cucurella as well. So I think it makes sense to move him on. You know, he's a really good player. He's been, I've said it before, you know, unsung hero. For me, he's one of those players that gets little credit for a lot of the things that he does. But he's one of those players that for me is you know, we heavily relied on him last season with Ben Chilwell being out. And he'll do well. He'll do well at Barca. So it makes sense for the move to happen. Bit of a disappointment that he's going, but of course, you know, like I said about Timo Werner, we can't retain all these players that we really want to retain. So we have to bring some new players in. Another player that we've been heavily linked with, and I do feel like this deal has to be done, will be done, and that's Wesley Fofana from Leicester City. Now, Leicester are holding out really tight for this one. I think they're waiting for the right amount of money to come through the email from Chelsea and from Todd, and respectfully, they can do that. You know, they know that we need centre backs. They know that we've got the money. They know that, you know, he's one of their prize assets. So of course they can tell us what they want for him, and it's up to Todd whether he wants to splash the cash and make him arguably the world's expensive centre back in the Premier League. So it does make sense. I think from what Ben Jacobs has been saying earlier on today, there's a lot of excitement around Fofana because he wants to move, and Chelsea aren't giving up. But Leicester planning to play Fofana against Arsenal. Things could change fast, but as of now, Frankie Deyoung, from a club-to-club perspective, as we just spoke about, is more advanced. Another reminder, if Chelsea succeed with Fofana, the structure will be as important as the number. That's why Bowley wants significant verbal talks to engage and discuss rather than blind bid. This will allow Chelsea to speed up the sale. Leicester are still reluctant. Now, I think from both parts, if we talk about Leicester first of all, you know, Leicester do not want to lose Wesley Fofana. He's one of their best players at the club, one of the best players potentially in the Premier League if we're talking about centre-backs at the moment, and they don't want to lose him. So I get that 100%. It makes sense. They want to try and keep him. If they do have to sell him, and Wesley Fofana looks like he wants to move, Champions League football, World Cup, he wants to move. So if he wants to move, it's a case of how much are we willing to pay. Now, I think it's going to take in the region of 85, potentially even 90 million to lure him away from Leicester City. Leicester City would potentially not be able to turn down anything in the region of 80, 85, maybe 90 million. They can't afford to turn that down. I think that's the kind of region that they're looking for in terms of a transfer fee. But Todd Bowley's right. I think in terms of this deal, we need to understand what the structure, we need to get this deal done. So once that fee's been agreed, the structure of payment, the personal terms, everything else that sits underneath that transfer fee, that transfer structure needs to be agreed ASAP, because I think, he's now playing in games against, Arsenal, which I think he looks like he will be. We saw what happened to Ben Godfrey at the weekend against us. And we don't want Wesley Fofana, if he's going to come to the club, to then pick up a mad injury and then we have to go and do this whole negotiation and back and forth with another club for another centre back. So, we missed out on Delete as well, going to Bayern Munich. We can't really afford to miss up on this one. And, I've spoken before, Aspilicueta can play centre back, Cucurella can play centre back, but we need someone who's in that position. And I think Malangsar going to Monaco, it kind of tells you that, we are now in a point where we can't really determine what we want to pay for a player. It's the other way around. The club is going to tell us what we need to pay, and we need to stump up the cash ASAP. So I think that's the case. I think that's what we'll need to do with Fofana. I think is the transfer fee excessive? 100%, 100%. But when you're a club that has little debt, your new owners have come in. Your new owners want to make marquee signings. This is the position that you're put in. You don't really have a say in what you can do, or the ball's not in your court. So I think we have to just remember that if we want him, we're gonna have to pay the cash. Is it excessive? Yes, but as long as he delivers on the pitch, which I think he will, I don't have any doubt that he can do that, and especially against alongside Thiago Silva and Koulibaly. Yes, I think he's one of those players that we need to bring in regardless of the fee. There's obviously a lot of talk, I think, from Man United fans about Harry Maguire and how he's developed or not developed since he's moved there, for the fee that they paid for him as well. But I do think the way that we are, the way that we set up our coaching is totally different. Our whole structure, our whole project is totally different to Manchester United. So I think Fofana would flourish in our team. Like I said, he wants to move. He wants to play Champions League football. And I think it's going to get to the point where, Leicester will be backed into a corner and they'll have to take the fee. They'll have to take what we offer them, and they'll have to release the player, because what they don't want to do is have a player that's unhappy sitting at the club, disrupting the team. This is a massive season for Brendan Rodgers after the back of, kind of those European seasons where they've kind of done okay. Got quite far in Europe, but then they've struggled in the league. And I think this season is a massive season for Brendan Rodgers. So ideally, he really wants to take the fee and then be able to spend that money wisely as well. So I think this deal needs to get done as soon as possible. Hopefully we can get it done, if not before the Spurs game, which I doubt very much now, seeing as it's Wednesday. But we saw what happened with Cucurella, how quick that was done. So we never know. But it's one to watch, definitely. I wouldn't be against Wesley Fofana coming to the club. I think he's a good centre back. I do think the fee's excessive, but it is what it is. We have to see. But of course, we've got some more videos coming up this week. We'll be doing our match preview against Spurs Sunday, 4:30. That's going to be a big game. Massive test for both clubs as well. So make sure you check that out later this week. And of course, we'll have the next edition of the podcast coming out also this week as well, with myself and Theo. So if you haven't already, like I said before, subscribe to the channel, get onto those social accounts down there, make sure you're following them, and also go to Spotify once you've done that and click the notification button, and you'll be notified when our next podcast episode is out. But this has been T.Dot, another video for From the Shed End. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, stay safe and thanks for watching.